Welcome back to the deep dive. And usually when we think about what makes us miserable, we tend to picture these massive life-altering disasters.
Like complete career failure or some major health crisis.
Exactly, yeah. Something totally cinematic, but honestly, you suffer the most when you let the incredibly small things completely steal your peace.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, it's the rude comment from a coworker, or getting cut off in traffic, or just a passive-aggressive delayed text message.
It is absolute death by 1,000 paper cuts. And what is genuinely fascinating about human behavior is that we tend to think our reaction to those little paper cuts is just hardwired into who we are.
Right. We treat being a quote-unquote calm person
Yeah.
like it's a genetic lottery, like
Yeah.
having blue eyes or being double-jointed or something.
Mm.
You either have that naturally zen personality, or you're just stuck being a volatile stress ball forever.
Which is such a dangerous myth.
It really is. So what if calmness isn't a personality trait at all? What if it's just a muscle you haven't flexed yet?
I love that framing.
Thanks. So for this deep dive, our mission is to build a step-by-step guide for you to stay calm in daily life.
Yeah.
We are pulling from a massive stack of behavioral psychology and mindset architecture, including James Clear's Atomic Habits, Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit, and several intensive motivational audiobooks to really look at the actual mechanics of why we snap and how you can train your mind to stay grounded.
And the foundational premise we have to establish here, which comes straight from the Train Your Mind to Win material, is that calmness under pressure is a highly trainable skill.
Okay.
Untrained minds react and panic. Trained minds pause and observe. But, to get to that trained state, we have to look under the hood of why the brain defaults to panic in the first place.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that reactivity then, because if we don't know why we're spiraling over a spilled cup of coffee, we really can't stop it.
Exactly. So to understand the spiral, we have to look at what behavioral researchers like Charles Duhigg and James Clear describe as the habit loop.
The cue, routine, reward thing, right?
Yes, exactly. Every habit you have, including your immediate emotional reactions, runs on a three-part neurological loop. You've got the cue, the routine, and the reward. So in the context of losing your temper or your peace, the cue is simply an external trigger.
Like your car won't start.
Right. Or your boss sends an email in all caps.
Ah, the unexpected threat to our equilibrium.
Yes. And then comes the routine. For an untrained mind, the routine is the immediate emotional explosion. It's the panic, the yelling, that sudden wave of catastrophic anxiety.
Right, your heart drops into your stomach.
Exactly. And here is where it gets incredibly counterintuitive. You have to ask yourself why a survival organ like the human brain would automate a routine that makes you feel so terrible.
Yeah, because panicking feels awful. It's exhausting. Where is the actual neurological reward in losing your mind over bad traffic?
The reward is a fleeting, false sense of power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's an illusion of control. When you panic or lash out, your brain feels like it's actually doing something about the problem. Evolutionarily speaking, we are dealing with what psychologists call an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack.
Right. The amygdala is basically the ancient alarm system in your brain. When a stressor hits, the amygdala totally bypasses the logical prefrontal cortex and just floods your system with stress hormones.
It just takes the wheel completely.
It absolutely takes the wheel. And as this stop letting anything affect, you source points out, this ancient survival machine is designed to imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. It wants to keep you safe from predators. So anxiety literally lives in the gap between what is actually happening and the catastrophic future your brain is projecting.
Wow.
By reacting aggressively, the brain thinks it's fighting off a tiger, and it rewards you with a tiny burst of relief for quote-unquote taking action.
Okay, so reacting emotionally to a daily stressor is essentially like scratching a mosquito bite.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
I mean, it feels like a massive relief in the split second you do it,
Yeah.
but it actually just creates more inflammation. You're tearing the skin, guaranteeing the itch will come back stronger, and just making everything worse long term. You're just like feeding that habit loop.
That is exactly what is happening biologically. You are reinforcing the neurological pathway that says, when I feel threatened, panic is the solution.
Okay, so if this reactivity loop is triggered almost instantly by the amygdala, it seems like the only way to intervene is to attack that tiny, tiny gap right after the cue, before the routine actually kicks in.
That gap is everything. When a negative trigger strikes, your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, is activated. Your survival instinct literally screams at you to fight back or defend yourself immediately.
Right.
The way you interrupt that ancient instinct is by deploying step 1 of our guide, the pause strategy.
And practically, what does that pause actually look like in the moment? Because, I mean, the body usually reacts first. You get that shallow breathing, the tight shoulders, the racing heart. You can't really just think your way out of a physiological response, can you?
You absolutely cannot, which is why the pause must start as a physical grounding technique. If you don't address the body's reaction, the mind will inevitably just follow along.
So what's the move?
Taking one slow, incredibly deep breath, it does something very specific neurologically. It stimulates the vagus nerve.
Okay, the vagus nerve.
Yeah, and this engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest network. It chemically signals your brain that you are not in mortal danger. This is a crucial rule for emotional regulation. The body calms the mind, not the other way
The
around.
body calms the mind. I love that.
Right. And once you force that breath, you use the pause not to violently suppress your anger or your fear, but just to observe it without acting on it.
Like giving yourself a buffer.
Exactly. You buy yourself 3 seconds to ask an internal question. What would a controlled response look like right now?
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second here. If the pressure is really intense, say you are in a heated face-to-face confrontation with a colleague who is raising their voice at you, doesn't taking a long, deep breath and just staring at them make you seem weak, like you're freezing up like a deer in the headlights?
It's a really common fear, but social dynamics dictate the exact opposite. Silence actually controls the frame of the conversation.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. When someone comes at you with aggressive, chaotic energy, they subconsciously expect you to mirror it. They are relying on your reaction to fuel their own
I'm
momentum.
like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Exactly. When you deny them that reaction, when you just breathe and hold eye contact, they completely lose their footing. Delayed reaction is delayed power.
Delayed reaction is delayed power.
Wow. It naturally de-escalates the other person because they are suddenly forced to confront your calm, steady presence against their chaos. Restraint is not a sign of weakness. It is actually the ultimate display of self-command.
That completely reframes the power dynamic of an argument. So the pause protects you from your own internal triggers. But what happens when the trigger isn't an event, but a person? Like, how do you maintain that pause when someone else is actively trying to pull you into their panic? Because staying calm has to require protecting yourself from the stress that other people just dump on you.
It does, and this is step 2, setting boundaries. This is where we get into the danger of unchecked empathy.
Unchecked empathy. That sounds like a contradiction.
I know, because empathy is an incredible human trait, right? It allows us
Yeah.
to connect and care for our friends and colleagues. But from a behavioral standpoint, we have these mirror neurons in our brains that naturally mimic the emotional states of the people around us.
Oh, so we literally catch their stress like a cold.
Yes. If you aren't careful, there is a massive blurring of the line between caring for someone and carrying their burden. The motivational materials we analyzed for this deep dive consistently warn that passively absorbing the stress of others will leave you cognitively depleted.
And when you're depleted, you're useless.
Exactly. When your nervous system is depleted, you lose your own baseline of calm, making you totally useless to the person you were trying to help in the first place.
It's basically emotional luggage. Like,
Mhm.
empathy is helping someone carry their incredibly heavy bag up a flight of stairs,
Mhm.
but absorbing their stress is taking their bag home with you, unzipping it, and unpacking their dirty laundry in your own living room. You don't need to do that to be a good friend.
I love that visual.
Yep.
That is exactly what we do. And to stop unpacking their laundry, you have to create a cognitive boundary.
How do we do that?
The sources recommend a visualization technique called the invisible shield. It sounds super simple, but it is highly effective for neurolinguistic programming. When you are listening to a complaining friend or a frantic coworker, you literally visualize a physical barrier between you.
Just a wall of glass or something.
Yeah, a glass wall, a force field, whatever works. You can hear their words, you can offer genuine compassion, but you visualize that shield actively blocking their frantic, anxious energy from entering your nervous system.
So you are intentionally changing your internal dialogue while they speak to you.
Yes. Instead of your mirror neurons firing and your brain saying, oh no, now I'm worried too, you intentionally shift the thought to, I care for them, but this is not mine to carry.
Not mine to carry. That is so liberating.
It really is. And this ties beautifully into the philosophy outlined in Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck. The core of that approach is accepting your absolute limits and purposefully focusing your attention only on what truly matters.
Right, conserving your energy.
Yes, it's about severing the emotional ties to outcomes you cannot control. You cannot control your coworker's bad mood or their poor time management or their anxiety. Therefore, you do not tie your inner peace to their behavior.
Okay, so we've established the pause for our own reactions, and we've built a cognitive shield against other people's drama. But to truly stay calm, we have to look at the ambient environment, don't we? Because even if you block external human stress, if your physical and mental environment is just a chaotic mess, your baseline state is never going to be steady.
That is step 3, and it brings us to a fascinating intersection between the unstoppable motivation audio material and organizational systems like Rekondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up and David Allen's Getting Things Done.
Oh, I love David Allen stuff.
It's brilliant. And the through line here is cognitive load theory. Your external environment directly dictates your internal cognitive load. Clutter is not just a cosmetic issue, it is a neurological drain.
How so? Like, mathematically.
Kind of. A messy desk, a phone buzzing with endless notifications, or an unorganized, swirling list of to-dos. These all act as constant visual and mental noise. Your brain is continuously scanning and processing that clutter in the background, which completely exhausts your directed attention.
I feel that on a visceral level. When my workspace is a disaster, my brain feels exactly like a web browser with 90 tabs open. The fan is whirring, everything is lagging, and the battery is just dying.
That is the perfect modern equivalent, 90 tabs open. So clearing your physical space and setting firm technological boundaries like establishing strict tech-free zones in your house or just disabling all non-essential push notifications that directly reduces that background mental processing.
And what about the mental clutter, like the stuff we're just worrying about?
Right, David Allen's method adds another layer to this. He addresses something called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Yeah, it's a psychological principle stating that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks way better than completed tasks. Unfinished business literally haunts your working memory.
Oh, so that's why you bolt awake at 3 a.m. remembering you didn't send an email.
Exactly. That's the Zeigarnik effect in action. By properly organizing your to-dos and getting them out of your brain and into a trusted external system, you close those cognitive loops. When your brain trusts the system you've built, it stops frantically trying to remind you to buy milk or send that email, and that suffocating feeling of overwhelm just begins to evaporate.
That makes total sense. And beyond just organizing the external world, the sources talk about actively detaching from the daily noise, right? Like creating moments of intentional silence or spending time in nature to organically reset the nervous system. But practically speaking, what does mental stillness actually mean? Because if I sit in silence, my brain doesn't just stop. It usually just starts drafting a grocery list or stressing about an upcoming meeting.
Oh, absolutely. And that is a very common misconception about mindfulness and stillness. Mental stillness is not the absence of thought.
It's not.
No, you cannot turn the brain off. It is an organ designed to generate thoughts the exact same way the heart is designed to pump blood.
That is strangely comforting to hear.
It should be. Stillness is simply the ability to watch those thoughts pass by without attaching your emotions or your identity to them. It's observing the thought, like, oh, I have a stressful email to send, acknowledging it like a cloud moving across the sky, and then just letting it drift away rather than letting it ruin your walk in the park.
Okay, I can do that. Let the clouds pass. Don't grab onto them. So that clears the noise out and lowers the cognitive load.
Yeah.
But the brain abhors a vacuum. Once the noise is gone, you have to actively fill that mental space with a constructive focus.
All right.
Otherwise, the anxiety is just going to creep right back in to fill the void.
Precisely. Step 4 is reprogramming the mind. Remember, the untrained mind is inherently problem-obsessed. It constantly scans the environment for what is going wrong or what is missing.
Right, the survival instinct again.
Exactly. From an evolutionary standpoint, that kept us alive in the wild. But in modern life, it just makes us chronically stressed. To maintain calm, you have to consciously reprogram your brain to become progress-obsessed. And the How to Get Smarter Everyday source offers a brilliant, actionable tactic for this. Replacing the traditional to-do list with an I did list.
So wait, instead of writing down what I need to do tomorrow, I write down what I already did.
Yes.
Doesn't writing down tiny completed tasks just feel a little bit like patting yourself on the back for doing the bare minimum? Like,
No.
congratulations to me, I successfully answered a phone call today.
It can sound trivial on the surface, sure, but it has nothing to do with ego. It has everything to do with neurochemistry. As we discussed with the Zeigarnik effect, when your mind fixates on unfinished tasks, it generates a low-grade, constant stress response. But Acknowledging completed actions, that triggers a release of dopamine.
Ah, the motivation chemical.
Exactly. It provides a profound sense of psychological relief. It builds what psychologists call action momentum. A calm mind learns faster and performs significantly better. By physically writing down the I did list at the end of the day, you provide your brain with tangible, undeniable evidence of progress and growth.
And that evidence just convinces the nervous system it is safe to power down.
Exactly. You are proving to your brain that you handled things today, so you can rest tonight.
And this ties into the 5-minute rule for starting things. Right?
Yes. The 5-minute rule dictates that if a task is daunting and causing you anxiety, you commit to doing it for just 5 minutes. The friction, the stress, is almost always in the anticipation of the start.
Oh, I totally relate to that. Once I start, I'm usually fine.
Right. Once you begin, the action momentum takes over, the dopamine hits, and the anxiety dissolves into focus.
You know, the motivational sources also use some really interesting parables to reinforce this progress mindset. Like the story of the cracked pot that leaked water all the way home every day, feeling like a total failure, until it was pointed out that the leaked water had actually grown a beautiful path of flowers along the road.
That's a great one.
Or the butterfly that actually requires the painful struggle of breaking out of the cocoon to force fluid into its wings so it can fly. If you, quote-unquote, help it out, it dies.
Yes, those parables are essentially ancient ways of describing the concept of anti-fragility. Some systems, like the butterfly and like the human nervous system, don't just survive stress. They actually require a certain amount of struggle to grow stronger. Staying calm doesn't mean pretending life is perfect. It means embracing your flaws and the inherently messy process of growth.
Perfectionism is the enemy.
Perfectionism is a primary enemy of calm because it demands an impossible standard. When you accept anti-fragility, you remove that exhausting pressure. And to support this, you also have to monitor your inner dialogue.
The way we talk to ourselves.
Well, exactly. Some of the linguistic sources we reviewed emphasize the practice of self-compassion affirmations. You must actively replace harsh, panic self-talk with phrases like, I am kind to myself on difficult days.
Because your inner voice dictates your physical stress response.
Yes. If your inner voice is a hostile tyrant, your body stays in a state of sympathetic panic. If your inner voice is compassionate, your parasympathetic system keeps you calm.
Okay, so we have built a really solid neuroscience-backed toolkit here. We know how to use the pause to interrupt the amygdala hijack. We know how to visualize boundaries against borrowed stress. We understand how clearing physical and mental clutter lowers our cognitive load. And we know how to use the I did list to generate dopamine and focus on progress over perfection.
Which brings us to the final hurdle.
Right, making this permanent. Step 5. We don't just want you to be calm for an hour after listening to this deep dive. We want this to be your default state.
And to make it permanent, we have to synthesize these tools using Charles Duhigg's concept of keystone habits. A keystone habit is a single foundational pattern of behavior that unintentionally triggers a massive chain reaction of other good habits throughout your life.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. Duhigg illustrates this with the famous case study of Paul O'Neill, who took over as the CEO of the struggling aluminum manufacturing giant Alcoa in the 1980s.
And he didn't come in and immediately demand higher profit margins or faster production, right? Wall Street was furious.
They were baffled because O'Neill refused to focus on efficiency or profits. He focused exclusively on one single keystone habit: worker safety. Safety. He declared that Alcoa would become the safest company in the world. By hyper-focusing on changing the routines around that one issue of safety, a profound cultural shift happened. Think about it. To improve safety, communication across management levels had to improve.
Right.
To improve communication, processes had to be streamlined. As processes were streamlined, quality went up, and ultimately profits skyrocketed to record highs. Safety was the keystone that unlocked everything else.
Wow.
So if you make calmness specifically the habit of the pause your personal keystone habit, it will ripple out. It will positively transform how you communicate in your relationships, how you process information in your career, and it will radically reduce the cortisol levels damaging your physical health.
So calmness is the safety protocol for the human body.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it, yes. And we can apply James Clear's atomic habits philosophy to actually make that keystone habit stick.
Right, because Clear's fundamental argument is that true, lasting behavior change is actually identity change. The goal isn't just to say, I'm going to try really hard not to yell at traffic today. That relies on willpower, which totally depletes. The goal is to fundamentally adopt a new identity. I am a person who stays in control.
Exactly. You prove that new identity to yourself through small 1% improvements every single day. And the most practical, tactical way to implement this immediately is through what Clear calls habit stacking. You don't try to build a new habit in a void. You take the new behavior and stack it directly onto an existing unavoidable cue.
So, for example, if your unavoidable cue is receiving a stressful email from your boss, those emails are coming, they're an established part of your day,
Yeah.
you can stack the routine of taking one slow, vagus nerve stimulating breath before your fingers are ever allowed to touch the keyboard.
Imperfect example.
And the reward is that you maintain your physiological peace and you avoid sending a reactive email you'll just have to apologize for later.
Precisely. By stacking the pause onto a trigger that is already happening organically, you completely bypass the need for massive amounts of willpower. The sequence simply becomes automatic. Cue, stressful email, routine, deep breath, reward, control.
By doing that, you're rewiring the brain entirely. You're taking the exact same trigger that used to cause a panic spiral, and you're using it to trigger a grounding exercise instead. It is so powerful.
It really is. And as we wrap up this synthesis, I want to leave you with a final thought that connects all of this behavioral science to the Stoic philosophy found in Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way.
Oh, great book.
It's fantastic. We've talked about all these strategies to insulate your peace. But what if the next time something goes completely wrong? The car breaks down on the highway, the major project fails at work, the heated argument happens. You don't view it as a disaster that threatens your hard-earned calm.
Okay, how should we view it?
What if you view it as the exact training ground you need to practice your new skills?
Oh, wow.
The chaos is the curriculum. Without the pressure, you can't practice the pause. Without the difficult coworker, you can't test your invisible shield.
The chaos is the curriculum.
I
love the paradigm shift there. Going back to our opening, being a calm person isn't genetic. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
And every single annoyance, every dropped call, every paper cut, it's really just a free trip to the gym to train that muscle.
Exactly.
Well, take a deep breath, embrace the pause today, and let the chaos train you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.